All right. Well, let's get started. Appreciating everyone being able to join us on time, and we have a great treat for you today. A couple of remarkable and contributory and inspiring deans of faculty development that will be having an opportunity to share with all of us today a bit about what is it that they have done in their career trajectory, what might be the role that gets played under faculty development as a broad way of defining a faculty affairs office, and also using the opportunity to share with us a number of resources as to where to go to find the information that hopefully you'll be tickled to go and follow after hearing this discussion. The way we scheduled our conversation today is after I do just brief introductory remarks, each of our presenters will share about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for discussion. We really want to make sure that we facilitate interaction, that you feel engaged, and that we really dedicate the later part of our conversation to addressing the interest and the needs that you all have. Briefly, I'll introduce myself. I'm Francisco Moreno. I serve as Associate Vice President for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at the University of Arizona Health Sciences. I apologize for the typo. I'm not with the College of Medicine in Tucson, although I had work at the College of Medicine in a diversity role in the past. I'm a professor of psychiatry, and part of my work also involves faculty development. I'm an MPI for a NIH program to promote diversity and research training, and so our mission has been now for 2 consecutively funded periods to promote the training of individuals from underrepresented backgrounds in biomedical research to become better equipped to do meaningful research that can help us address health disparities, no matter where along the line of the clinical and translational continuum those might be. I also have the honor of serving, wearing another couple of roles that has allowed me an opportunity to work in faculty development and collaborate closely with deans for faculty affairs, but I am not myself somebody who's worn the hat of the faculty affairs or faculty development team. So for that, we'll move on to our presenters today. Again, it's my honor to briefly introduce them. I had been advised not to do a very extensive introduction because that's part of what they're going to be doing here right away. But again, as you can see here and from the program, we have Dr. Yvonne, or Bonnie, as she's affectionately known, Bonnie Maldonado from Stanford University, who has a very broad scope of service in her Senior Associate Dean for Faculty Development and Diversity. We'll hear more about that. And also Dr. Beatriz Tapia, who comes from a younger university, the Texas UT Rio Grande Valley School of Medicine, where she is the founding assistant dean for faculty development. And she's also very involved in a statewide faculty development effort that we're hoping to hear more about it. What's up in Texas with that. So with that, let me please again welcome Dr. Bonnie Maldonado. Bonnie, please go ahead.
Hi, sorry about that. I'm having trouble with my internet connection. Can you hear me?
We hear you well, Bonnie, and I have the first slide up and running. I don't know if you're able to see it, and I'll
yes,
follow
I can see it now. Yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So you all have the our bio sketches already. So, but I wanted to talk a little bit about. First of all, I want to thank Francisco and Beatriz for being my co-host for this session, and thanks to all of you for listening in today. I have had a chance to listen into some of the talks, and they've been extremely informative. So I thought one thing that I was going to start with is just to give you a sense of what my career path was, and some of the decision points that I had along the way. And then I wanted to outline a little bit about what my role is, because it turns out that Beatriz and I have very different roles at our school. So I think it would complement each other quite a bit. So my family is from Chihuahua, Mexico, Mexico. My sister and I were born in California. We're from Los Angeles. And I'm first gen. When I was the first in my family to go to college, as many of you have the same stories. And I really hadn't been to a college campus per se. I think I had taken classes as a high school student at the local community college, ELAC, East Los Angeles Community College. And I went to UCLA undergraduate. And again, very supportive family. But when we talk about faculty development, I want to go back and talk about my roots and what kind of support or lack of support I had for development at all. Because it really is it's a progressive mentorship, sponsorship, and development process that I think we are very fortunate now to have. At the time, I really just tried to seek out an opportunity to do science. I really liked science. I loved research. And for some reason, and I love the sciences. And so at UCLA, it's a very large school. I had come from a very small private Catholic girls' school. So going to UCLA was a little overwhelming for me culturally and in many other ways. And I found a degree, a major that was called microbiology at the time. It's now microbiology and immunology. It was a very small field at the time. And most of the people who went into this field became medical technicians at hospitals, that is running diagnostic laboratories. But I really loved the scientific aspects of it. In particular, I really loved working with the viruses. And of course, we're talking about many years ago, before some of you were born probably. And we really didn't know much about pathogens, but I just love that class. Let me just give you one story there, because I can skip through a lot of the other stuff, but the story there that sticks to me the most is that I had a Latino advisor who's Puerto Rican, and he was one of the faculty members in the Department of Microbiology, which is a very small department. And think about it, a very small department, maybe 15 faculty, one of them is Latino. And I thought, what a great role model. The first thing he told me, he said, "You'll never get into medical school, so don't even think about it." He said, and I said, "Well, why do you say that?" He said, "Well, I have a lot of really smart guys in my lab, and they haven't been able to get into medical school. So I don't know why you would. So just don't get your hopes up." And it was really discouraging. And I remember going back to my parents and saying, this Latino from UCLA said I couldn't go to med school. And they said, "Don't listen to him. He said, you know what you can do, you know what you can't do. So let him say what he wants. That's not your problem. That's his problem." And even though they couldn't tell me what classes to take or what path to take, I have to say that reinforcement of my beliefs and my belief system was really, in many ways, much more important, because I could have easily walked away. Long story short, I applied to 12 medical schools. I got into 11 of them. I won't tell you which one I didn't get into, but but the point is that one day I was walking into the elevator to go up to the lab where I was working with another faculty member. And he said, "So what are you doing next year?" I said, "I'm going to Stanford Medical School." And I walked out of the elevator and I never spoke to him again. Actually, I didn't speak to him after that one meeting either. So the point is, you have to build a system around you. And I believe that today, as a Senior Associate Dean for Faculty Development and Diversity, we have to give our structured support to everybody along the path, whether you're a first gen undergraduate high school student or you're a full professor. I can tell you I meet with full professors every day, or at least every week, who have the same concerns that we all had when we were undergraduates. So that never goes away. And it's really amazing to me how hard it is, especially for women, to get rid of that imposter syndrome or that insecurity. So that's one of the motivations I have. So I wound up going to Stanford Med School. I really loved it. Extremely supportive environment. The Latino community there was really supportive. I felt like I was doing well. One of the things I will say, though, is I was very interested in an academic career from the very beginning. I just knew that's what I wanted to do, but I also was interested in community health and public health. And I did get some backlash from my colleagues who said, well, why, do you think you're too good to go back into the community? I said, that's not the point. That's not what I'm saying. I just like research. I want to be able to use my research to help my community. It's just my way of contributing. And I did do all of the community health rotations, et cetera, but I loved my lab, and I still have a laboratory today that I work in pretty actively. So the other thing is we need to be supportive of each other's paths, even though there may be different from each other, we are still united in our goals to support one another. So then I decided to do my internship at Stanford. It was comfortable. I felt good there. I hadn't left California, and I still felt those ties to California, and I was afraid to leave. But an opening at Johns Hopkins as a residency opened up, and some of my friends really encouraged me to go there. So I did. I went to Hopkins, and it was the best thing I could have done. It taught me about different ways of approaching training and how to stand up for myself in a very unfamiliar environment. And I really learned the strength of my own convictions and how to make an argument for myself and for my medical care, my treatment plans, and how to stand up to people who might not have accepted me. One of the first things that happened to me there was one of the residents said, oh, how did you know that? And this was my colleague in my own class. And I felt, okay, is he saying that because I'm Latina? Is he saying that because I'm a woman? Or is he saying that because I came from Stanford and we're not known for big clinical programs? So I thought, I'm confused, but I don't care. So the first thing I said to him is, why? Why would you think that I wouldn't know that? And he didn't know what to say. So again, the strength of your convictions, stand up for yourself and stand up and be an ally for others. Then I decided to go into my fellowship, which really strengthened the path that I had. I love viruses. It turns out that I loved working with vaccines. And I had a lab there. The people in my division were supportive, and they told me, which turned out to be true, you'll never make a lot of money as a pediatric infectious disease fellowship, but you'll get to travel to a lot of places in the world and make a difference in global health. And that has been absolutely true, every single piece of it, including the part about not making a lot of money. And so, but it has been an amazing career. I've loved it, every minute of it. So, sometimes you just stumble on things. And the reason I say stumble is because I did look at all of the different fields, but this was the one where, just experiencing mentorship from different people really helped guide my path there. And then based on my work at Hopkins, I went to CDC. They have amazing mentorship there. I have to say that was probably the most supported time of my career. They were the CDC faculty and staff there are incredible. And I have to say, it really pains me now to see what's happening to our public health infrastructure and the lack of support that they're getting, because they are really true believers in public health and health equity. And I support them. Every time I get an honorarium, I send it to the CDC Foundation because I believe in them so much that they are really the network that's holding us together in this country. So I learned a lot about epidemiology, but I also learned about how to be supportive for other people. And I have, surprisingly, I've been on the faculty at Stanford ever since. So it's really my only real faculty job that I've ever had. Part of it is the support I've received from my colleagues at Stanford, and part of it is the mission of global health that I've been working on. My colleagues around the world, I've worked in Sub-Saharan Africa, India, Latin America, Mexico, here in the US, and the colleagues around the country and around the world have really kept me going and inspired to do the job that I did. And so at that point, I really was offered by our dean the opportunity to take on faculty development. And the reason I was offered this, timing wise, was because the inaugural dean for faculty development and diversity is Hannah Valentine. And I don't know if you know her name, but Hannah left Stanford to become the chief diversity officer at NIH, and she was a close friend and colleague, and she's been back now, and we're working together still. But that position was open, and I really had to think twice about it because, frankly, and I'll just put it out on the table here, when you choose a career like this, yeah, she is a rock star. She's so smart and strategic too. But when you pick a field like this, if you're not careful and you're a career as an established tenured professor in a field that's not related to faculty development or diversity, if you're not well established, I was worried that I would be pigeonholed into just the diversity person. And you tend to, people tend to drown you out, frankly, I'll be honest. And, sometimes they put you in a box and say, you're just going to talk about diversity. But and Hannah's a good example, and I'm sure many of you are as well. Hannah was well known in her field of interventional cardiology well before she entered this, and I was well known in my field as well. So we have to battle those biases because they still are there even today. I know that when I took on COVID, because I'm an infectious disease epidemiologist, I've been running many of the COVID programs at Stanford. I'm part of the FDA and CDC and other national organization COVID response programs in terms of epidemiologic studies and vaccine trials. And when I started talking about COVID and running these, some of the chairs and the dean said, I didn't know you had such robust science. And I thought, well, I'm a full Stanford tenured professor, for goodness sakes. How do you think I got here? So I just want you all to be aware that you need to make it very clear and not back off when people will challenge you, because when we talk about these kinds of approaches around faculty development, and you'll hear about academic affairs as well, you may start to get, oh, you're just the dean's office administrative people. You don't know what we're living through. You don't have the academic background to understand our problems. Well, we certainly do, and then some, because not only do we understand your problems, we understand our problems as BIPOC people and gender biased people who've been the recipients of gender bias. So we not only understand your issues, we understand ours even more. So don't let that, you need to have a lot of support, mentorship, sponsorship, even as a dean, because a week doesn't go by where I still have to, bounce my ideas off of my colleagues to make sure that we have a true north. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to lay out the current roles that I have. These are my official roles. So I actually didn't put in there that last year I finally I'm over 60. I won't tell you exactly how much over, but I did not have an endowed professorship. And I said, that is one thing that I think many of us deserve. And if you look at the endowed professorships at Stanford, as probably true for many places, they mostly go to white males. And so we really advocated for this. But I did get an endowed professorship last year from a donor who was interested in global health and infectious diseases. So I'm the Taube endowed professor in global health infectious diseases, but I'm also a professor of pediatrics and health research and policy. So I have a joint appointment in a basic science and a clinical department. I'm the chief of the Division of Pediatric Infectious Diseases. I founded and direct the Global Child Health Program at Stanford. I direct the infection control program at the Children's Hospital. And I've directed a number of training programs, NIH-funded training programs, in addition to my role as senior associate dean. So when people ask you, well, how qualified are you to do this job? I think you can see that there's a path there going back many years of leadership development. And it's something that we really, and Beatriz will, I'm sure, reaffirm this, we try to make sure that we are giving our junior faculty the opportunity to start down that path. Next slide, please. So here's the difference. I'm just going to focus on the faculty development component because I know Beatriz will talk about faculty affairs. First of all, so the structure at Stanford, every structure is different. At Stanford, we have the dean, and we have a vice dean who, by the way, also graduated in my class here at Stanford. So I've known her for my whole career. She really runs a lot of the appointments and promotions process, but I am very aligned with her. We meet weekly, our teams work together. And what I do is I'm the dean. So we like to say I'm the dean that supports the faculty who are going to go into the Office of Academic Affairs to make sure that they're successful. So what I do is I put together a lot of leadership development programs. We are moving further and further down the ladder into junior faculty, into instructors. We just developed a $25 million curriculum for medical students and actually pipeline from community colleges, as well as for PhDs, to start to have them develop not only a faculty academic track development program, but also leadership development writ large. That is if we're in the Silicon Valley, people want to do startups, they want to go to industry. How do we help them build those skills to be leaders in whatever field they choose? So a lot of that work we do preemptively, making sure that people have access to programs that are either short, one-off programs. We also have structured 1 year and 18-month programs where people have mentors, coaches, sponsors. They run projects, and they have metric-driven outcomes for the leadership program so that they have the skills to move to the next level. And so these include these workshops, skills building workshops, cultural considerations workshops. We have faculty fellowships where we award funds for people to do research for 1 or 2 years, and then we bring them together to network. And we also are then able to support them to write their K and their R awards. We have a 70% success rate with our programs to help K and R awardees write their grants. As I mentioned, we support internal and external leadership development, research support, and we build all of the templates for every single search committee in the School of Medicine. So they are accountable to us for the best practices around faculty recruitment. I have to say we haven't done a great job in building the numbers, but we are trying to revamp that and understand exactly how we can do a better job of recruiting more BIPOC faculty. We do a really good job with gender, but the issue is BIPOC, and then retention is important as well. So next slide, please. This is just an example of pictures, again, workshops, faculty research support, and partnerships. So these are, one of the things that I have found works really well for our faculty is to provide them small pilot grants for ideas that they're just starting off with, especially junior faculty, so that they can then build up enough data to start getting federally supported grants. And we also support helping them write those. We have programs where we provide visibility for diversity and excellence. So there's an award that we have, a professional award, and Augustus White, pictured there in the middle, was the first African-American medical student graduating from Stanford. He's in his 90s now. He was also the first Black chair of a clinical department at Harvard. He was the chair of orthopedic surgery. And we have, through Fernando Mendoza, who many of you are familiar with, we have the Hispanic Center of Excellence funded by HRSA. And we have a joint a faculty fellowship with them where we provide leadership training and funds for Latino faculty to conduct research. And so you see that we also have a boot camp series that we started for brand new faculty members. So first and second year assistant professors, where we give them leadership development courses, networking, we provide mentorship and sponsorship, and give them in their crowded schedules, we've been able to really make these very concise, and we can do synchronous and asynchronous learning for them as well. I think I have one more slide. And so this is really just another way we partner with AAMC, is to really make sure that we advocate for and support and nominate our faculty to programs such as ELAM, which is the Drexel University Executive Leadership and Academic Medicine Program for Women. We have a number of wonderful AAMC professional development series, minority faculty leadership development, women faculty leadership development series, and the American Association for Physician Leadership. So we offer and support the registration and travel fees for a lot of these programs. And we do this, actually, we don't support all of it. Strategically, we cost share with departments. We believe the departments must they must have some skin in the game. So they really have to cost share and provide some support, not just spiritual and mental support. They need to put some dollars on the table for their own faculty. So we do cost share with them as well. So I'll hand it off. I think that's my last slide for now, and hand it off to Beatriz or Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to our next speaker, Dr. Beatriz Tapia, please.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Bonnie. You're very tough to follow, but we're, also aspirational. So a little bit about my journey. So, my parents, both from Mexico, one from the state of Puebla, the other one from the state of Guerrero. It's very tough when you go back to home country at times because family want to identify you from one state or the other. So it really depends what part of the state we're visiting. But both my parents were teachers in Mexico, and they came to Chicago for, and for those of you who are not aware, the railroad system happened, and there was a lot of individuals from Mexico that came. So one of the places that my dad was aware that had friends and even family was Chicago, because I asked that question: how did we end up in Chicago? How did we end up in Chicago? So I was born in Chicago. My parents both, although they were teachers in their home country, they both had blue collar jobs. Both of my parents went, because of their degrees, took some technical college. My mom was a radio technician. My dad, in the end, was a mechanic technician for airports. And so in the end, they worked very, long hours, and they really embedded in us the importance of education. And I'm a first generation Mexican American. I'm a middle child. I have two siblings, both of them men. So that's me at one of our one wedding that my uncle married in Chicago. So being a middle child and a female, learned survival skills pretty early. And my brother, one a teacher and one a veterinarian, but what I really want to share with the group is the sense of identity. So my dad fell ill, or started to feel ill in his mid-30s. He was diagnosed at the time, he was diagnosed with myotonic dystrophy, an autosomal dominant disease. Therefore, when I was 12, we went back to Mexico because Dad at that point got on disability. So I was raised in Chicago and also raised in, or in Illinois, and then raised in Puebla in Mexico. So I had that sense of, being born here, but also having the culture back in Mexico. So my hometown is Chicago. I've been living in South Texas since 2006. So if we could share the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about my professional journey in the next slide. So given that Dad fell ill, the question was, and I think for many of our parents is, where can we provide our children with the best education they could have? And at the time, my dad said, why don't you stay and then I'll just return to Mexico. But Mom decided, no, we're all returning back to Mexico. And so at the early age of, 12, went back, ended up, finishing high school and went directly into medical school. So my alma mater is Benemérita Universidad Autónoma de Puebla. It's the second oldest medical school in Mexico. And I got my medical degree in 98. Did my internship on the border in Reynosa. And once I graduated, I didn't have this sense of wanting to stay in Mexico, because I remember the journey that I had with my dad in going and being his interpreter. While Dad felt he understood the language, his communication, he would prefer that I go and, share his comments in English, even though he could have said it in his, broken English, if you will. So that really resonated with me, where I wanted to return back to the community that I identified with, my Latinx community back in my hometown, Chicago. So that's when I returned. I returned in 98 and started my journey as a foreign medical graduate, trying to find myself, really. And started off as a cashier, to be honest. And, as I was sitting for my steps and all, started to volunteer. And at that point, had an amazing individual at the University of Illinois School of Nursing, Nilda Peregado. She is now a dean of a School of Nursing in South Carolina, and gave me that first opportunity to start. So my journey was at the University of Illinois. I worked there as a research coordinator until I was able to get my foot in the door at the School of Medicine, decided to get my master's in public health. And I'll pause when I talk about my master's in public health, because the sense of being Latino. So I did my concentration in epidemiology, and we were only two Hispanics, a very good colleague of mine, from California, Colombian American, and two African Americans, in a group of 80 individuals from a new cohort in the department of Johns Hopkins. So we were only two minorities, Hispanics, and two African American Hispanics, and the rest were, international students. And it was very interesting just to be, while very important, the institution just felt a little bit alone, to be honest. So did epidemiology, did environmental medicine, occupational health, got a certificate in health disparities and health inequities. And I was paired up with a mentor at Hopkins, interesting enough, a minority, but they paired me up with him because he spoke Spanish. That's literally what they shared with me, because he spoke Spanish. So I just want to share that candidly, because even at institutions where you would think there was minority representation, there was not a good sense of identity of the needs of minority students at the time. So anyway, wrapped up at Hopkins, had a really good time there, was president of Nuestra America for Hispanic there, and then went off and did a fellowship at the CDC, actually through the Hispanic Serving Health Profession Schools. At the time, Dr. Valeria Romero Leggett was the president, and that's how I came about to the Hispanic Serving Health Professions. Came to the border during that time, and then saw that the border was an area that I was really interested in, and started my faculty work in 2006. So in 2006, I became a part of the University of Texas Health Science Center, San Antonio. And thanks to internship provided by the Hispanic Serving Health Profession School. So shout out, because that networking really helped me. Coming to the border helped me identify that there were people that were of my color in leadership positions. And that's when I said, I think academic medicine is going to be for me. Fast forward, during that time, I did an internship in environmental public health. And in 2011, I was a full-time faculty and still did this fellowship at the same time. Enjoyed my time teaching. And while I said I was never going to go back to school, I decided to go back to school because I found that teaching was a passion of mine. And funny story, and both of my parents said I should have been a teacher. And I said, no, I'm never going to teach. So never say never. Parents are very wise. And now I'm a medical educator. So that is my academic training. And so if we could get the next slide. So currently, as I shared before, I was a faculty member for the University of Texas Health Science Center, San Antonio. And we had an extension campus in Harlingen. So when the new medical school came about in opportunities in 2005, we had an opportunity to leave to San Antonio or to stay with the new medical school. So I jumped on the opportunity. New medical schools are, great, very passionate, great opportunities to make a difference, to have a full medical school on the border. So it was established in 2015. We started our first cohort in 2016. We've graduated two medical school classes. And our residency program at the time in 2015 came from 2 to now to 13. We've had a lot of clinical growth since then. And Our UT Health Rio Grande Valley operates now 25 clinical sites, and we have 6 outreach clinics where before we had nothing. We still don't have a public hospital on the border. Everything is private. And so that's a picture of our school. My role is as the Assistant Dean of Faculty Development. How I came about for that role. So I came and joined the university as an assistant professor. I'm now an associate professor of pediatrics. The opportunity was offered to me, and this goes to the imposter syndrome. And I'll candidly share our senior associate dean of faculty affairs, Dr. Robert Nelson, a Caucasian, very embracing minorities, asked me to come to his office one day and said, there's this opportunity, describe the role. And I turned around and said, I could help that person. He's like, no, we want it for you. I'm like, oh, no. I think I'm not even at that point in my career yet. And he says, well, think about it, and brought me back in a week. I really didn't brushed it off. I didn't think that was for me, given my career trajectory at the time. But at the following week, he brought me in. He's like, okay, what have you thought? I'm like, you're really considering me for this? He says, yes. And thankfully for that opportunity, for others seeing what sometimes you don't see in yourself, brought me up. And this was not an individual that was a minority. It was just another individual trying to lift us up. And so next slide. So now I'll go ahead and talk about what Faculty Affairs does. We're a very small office. So our core functions for Faculty Affairs, a little bit like Bonnie was saying, our core functions really tie around reporting, the promotion and tenure process. We look at faculty policies and renew faculty policies. We're in charge of the faculty orientation and onboarding. So any faculty member that comes through, we give them orientation to the culture, to the vision, the mission of the school, and we also give them resources if they're new to the area. We're responsible for giving guidelines in terms of salary equity and analysis. We're going through a merit process. So all the evaluations come to our office, and we talk about the merit process as well. Something that we do and is the grievance proceedings. While that's probably the more difficult part of our job is to, be the mediators and try to help as much as we can our faculty. We collect all the faculty annual performance evaluations. We're the one that tallies it. We support our faculty assembly. So there's a chair, but we provide all the support, and we are appointed to help and facilitate in any way we can. And we also have faculty resources. Next. In terms of our faculty development, and that's where my assistant dean role is, we provide faculty education sessions not only for all faculty, be it UME or GME. One of the main components that has been brought up to our attention, I think it also has national attention, is the faculty education or series for our community faculty, these volunteer faculty that are not paid, and how do we get them engaged? We started our School of Medicine Early Career Faculty Mentoring Program. We just graduated our cohort. We had 7 amazing individuals, junior faculty, that had a project, and it was a 9-month project where they had a series of curriculums, but they also had an opportunity for peer mentoring. And in the end, they had a scholarship project that they shared with the opportunity to develop it further within their department. We are in charge of the faculty development needs assessment. Granted, when we have the standpoint survey, we don't tow our faculty with other needs assessment. So I think one survey is enough. We've heard about survey burnout, and we try not to do that because we want people to answer our surveys. So we don't send as much as many of them. And we provide all the faculty development information for our school. Next. So So we are fairly new, our office, in terms of our infrastructure. It's our senior associate dean for faculty affairs. It's myself, who is the assistant dean of faculty development. We now have a director of faculty development, and we have a program manager and an administrative associate. So we're very, very small. So with that, we try to offer as much as we can. So last year we had our School of Medicine Early Career Mentoring Program. It was done by Zoom. You could see our Zoom, screenshot, if you will, of the inaugural mentoring program. We had our mentors and our mentees, and then we had our general faculty development. We are pretty ambitious, even though we have a small office. We are starting a new programs. We're going to have a wellness program, and we're also going to have a medical educator certificate. And so I think with me today is also our director of faculty development. So we're going to kick that off as a certificate program as well. And so that's what we're doing at our institution. If we could give me the next slide, please. I want to tell you where you could find resources at the national level. So at the national level, we have, if you're interested in faculty affairs, the AAMC has a new members toolkit. So if you feel that the information that we provided here today is of your interest, there has been an updated new members toolkit. And so with that, there is an array of information if you're starting off as a new individual in your role as a dean or as a director. There is also a quick reference guides to really enhance any type of professional development or advancement in working in your institution. I did place if you could go back, Fernanda, I did place information about a paper that I produced with Carol Bates, our counterpart at Harvard. And it was just talking about general career development and how we can maximize the success of your faculty. So there and these are 1 to 2 pages of rich information where you could go to just to get, like, if you will, the pearls of wisdom. So during this paper, Carol and I looked at what is it in terms of cost, how much is it to retain a faculty member, or even to recruit a faculty member? So depending on basic science or a general clinician, it could be up to $125,000 to $250,000 to recruit an individual. So with that, the importance of retention and recruitment with your programs of faculty development. And so there's a lot of information. There's much more resources, but I think I'll pause here because we want to give an opportunity for questions. So thank you.
So,
thank you very much.
Yeah,
Dr.
can I make
Tapia?
one other comment? So I thank you, Beatriz. That was great. One other thing I should mention, that in addition to the Office of Academic Affairs and the Office of Faculty Development, the other thing that is interesting about the structure that we have here at Stanford, and it's been really helpful for us, especially in the last year, is that I'm also it's a senior associate dean for faculty development and diversity. So we've created liaisons for every clinical department. We have 31 departments, and about 20 of those are clinical departments. And every single department has at least one liaison. We created that program about 5 years ago. And now we have, it's optional, but now some of the departments are sending 2 and 3 liaisons to our meetings. And they're making those individuals associate chairs for diversity or associate chairs for faculty development and diversity. So we have a really robust network throughout the medical school. We just called together a commission on justice and equity that comes under my office. And if you can go to the slide after the questions, Francisco, we might be able to show you the structure there. But what we have done is I have 4 associate deans under me now. One is under justice and equity. The other one is faculty development and diversity. And then the other one is I have MD admissions under my office as well. And then finally, I have, if you can go back, two more. No, the other way. The other way. The other way. The other way. Nope. 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 Oh, I guess they're not in there. Okay, that's too bad. Can I share a slide with you?
Yes, absolutely. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry about that. I think they somehow got pulled out, but let me go ahead and share. Sorry about that, but I think this is another important opportunity, especially today, to see where the way we are set up at Stanford. So again, above me is the vice dean and then the dean, and I partner with the senior associate dean for strategy. And the important thing there is that woman oversees strategy and initiatives for the School of Medicine and the two hospitals. So this actually goes beyond the university structure into the hospital systems. So we have an opportunity to affect culture and development for staff and trainees as well as just as faculty. So Neil Gesundheit is the Senior Associate Dean for Medical Education, but under him is one of my Associate Deans for Diversity and Medical Education. This is the office that Fernando Mendoza started many years ago. He just retired. And we have an Office of Diversity and Medical Education there. So this is my other dean she has a PhD in the business school and faculty in organizational behavior. So she really is a subject matter expert. And then Terrence Mays is our Associate Dean for Equity and Strategy across the whole enterprise, meaning the healthcare system, including faculty, trainees, staff, et cetera, nurses, everybody. So the idea is here that we can not only do development, but also with the lens of diversity so that we can really start to train people on how to have have a more inclusive environment that actually also supports our diversity and development initiatives. So if anything, if you don't have that structure, it's not necessary, but it is important to partner with these other groups because I have to say our liaisons have been amazing. So let me give you a good example. Let's just say there is a fellowship that's awarded nationally and you get there's a call for nominations and there's going to be 4 recipients and you go to your chairs, they're going to remember the first 4 people that pop up in their heads, right? And those are the people that they're familiar with, that they work with all the time. The job that our liaisons do is they go out and they know the landscape of the departments and the divisions better than the chair in terms of who's local that may be under the radar that the chair might not know, right? The chair will see the high level people who've already been through lots of programs. The liaisons will actually know a lot of the ground level people. So we have a much more robust nomination list of people now where we bring in, and we can then forward those and give more opportunities to people who otherwise might have been missed. As Beatriz mentioned, sometimes we don't nominate ourselves because we don't think we're quote unquote worthy or we were not ready yet. And the liaisons will come and say, this is a great person. And then we approach them and they say, oh, well, if you think it's great, I should do that. So I think
important pieces.
So I think it's really helpful to really build out across as many partnerships as possible.
And thanks, the two of you had shared something that also had happened to me, and I wonder if it hadn't happened to many of the people in the audience, that how much it would happen to, which is somebody tapped you, or somebody identified you, or believed you could do something that you couldn't. It happens a lot more in us, people of color, and the why me or whatnot also applies to the opportunities for advancement. And sometimes people see us differently also in the other direction. We tend to sort of hinder ourselves. And so use every opportunity to remind yourself of the potential and the awesomeness that you can all bring together. So I'd like to invite folks to raise your hand if you want to say something, unmute yourself and ask questions or share any comments you'd like to. And as you do that, I don't see any hands up. I'm going to read a couple of the comments that have come up. Thanking Dr. Maldonado and Tapia for the outstanding presentations. And then Rene Flores had mentioned about to finish the same the doctorate in education program. How has that degree helped you, Dr. Tapia, at your job? And what kind of grooming is best for people that have this job?
Wow. Well, thank you for asking that question, Renee. I must say that catapulted my career because, the pedagogy in faculty development and curriculum development is very much needed. There is a lack of clinical educators that have, not because we don't want to, that have the words to attach to all the clinical teaching they're doing. So that recognition of having an EDD really validates a pedagogical component of you doing faculty development, being an assistant dean of curriculum. It's been very important. And I must say that when I met with the senior associate dean, now my boss, I said, I don't know if I want to continue through getting a PhD or an EDD. And when I said that an EDD, it really took me to the pathway that I'm currently at. And I'm very content with that. So very helpful, specifically that program, because it's for health science educators, very unique.
Great. We know that there's a lot of diversity in the background of people that come to these roles. So whatever your roles might be, even if you don't have a lot of other trainings, experiences can allow us many times to really grow into contributing in a variety of different roles. And this is definitely one of the ones that I have seen the most diversity of folks working in this faculty development kind of work. Thanks also to people that have been sharing some links. Dr. Federico Martinez shared the AAMC link, and also Dr. Maldonado had shared the link for the Stanford group. Other thoughts or questions or comments people have?
Yeah, I wanted to make a point here about the landscape today, with or without COVID, the landscape for faculty. We keep talking about bringing in faculty, more diverse faculty. And yet we know that, as we've seen with medical education, when you bring in students, for example, who have diverse backgrounds and who may come from limited backgrounds with limited resources, they require some support through their training years because they haven't been fully prepared compared to others who may have more resources. So tutors, they've had more instruction, they've had family members who have been in academic or even medical careers. So we have realized, as we've increased this year, for example, we had 35% of our class accepted at Stanford Medical School was underrepresented minorities, which is a high number for us. But at the same time, we started realizing, especially with COVID, that we had a lot of vulnerable individuals who really needed support just to level set their entry into the medical field. So providing that support is important for everybody. It's true for faculty as well. We bring people from different backgrounds. They may have alternative research paths, they have alternative clinical paths, and from the quote unquote norm. And they may not be viewed the same way in terms of appointments and promotions. And how do we prepare them? So a lot of the work that we do, not only in Office of Academic Affairs, but in my office, how do we prepare people to not just write their CV, but to really populate it with activities that they are passionate about, that they can translate into scholarly, acceptable pathways. And that is something that we're working with our universities and our deans, frankly, and the AMP committees, the Appointments and Promotions Committees, they bring their own set of biases to the table. So what they look for, they're looking through 200-page resume or what we call them long forms at Stanford. And they're going to hit the highlights, like what schools did you go to? How many papers do you have? How many first and last author? That's not the only thing we should be looking for. We actually are including, and I'm sure Beatriz would say the same, we're including diversity statements in the appointments and promotion packet. And you can't just do that the day before you're going to submit your application. These are things you need to start preparing for the day you get accepted as a faculty member, and really helping support those individuals to make sure that everybody's story is unique and everybody's story should be valued for the contributions that they've made, is really a job that needs to start the very minute if at the very latest, the minute they get into a faculty position. And
It's great idea.
that's important. Yeah.
I think,
And you know, I see also Dr. Tapia, JP wanted to mention something. I don't know if we still have some time to continue, JP.
Yeah, I want to thank you. Outstanding presentation, and I'm really grateful for all of you in setting aside this Saturday. I know everyone is quite busy taking care of family, friends, and community. So thank you for being here with all of us. Can you talk a little bit about how do you nurture the lived experiences of our community and help people develop it into scholarship? You know, I think that a common metric is publishing or getting grants. Even if you come from a socioeconomically strapped or under-resourced area, that very experience and being able to make it to college and medical school is an important experience to bring it to the classroom and to share with our colleagues, whether you're a fellow learner or a faculty member. Are there certain initiatives that your institutions have rolled out to really support, for example, medical Spanish or the integration of Hispanic content throughout the curriculum that sort of views our lived experiences as assets, and then we work with our faculty and learners to help them translate it into sort of academic capital? Because I think as a community, we've struggled with that for multiple reasons, but could you touch upon that?
I'm going to go
Thanks,
ahead.
JP. Dr. Tapia, please go ahead. You can finish your thought and then answer JP.
Yes, no. Just fairly quickly, I just wanted to piggyback on what Bonnie was saying in terms of nurturing the faculty. You know, in our role, we are there to support the faculty in any capacity. And so if you're looking at a position for faculty development or faculty affairs, your commitment is to the faculty. You want them to stay, you want them to be productive, and you want them to feel identified with your institution. So with that, I'm going to go ahead, JP, and answer. So what I've done, so I didn't express what else I do aside. So 65% of my role is as the assistant dean, and then the other percentage is teaching. So we have a health system science that's now a new course incorporated in the medical school curriculum. And so that's where we're incorporating all this health disparities, health inequities, you know, and we offer opportunities for our students to work with the community. We are 80% Hispanic in the Rio Grande Valley. So it's probably different, the landscape that you have when you're from where you're calling. So for us, it's a huge responsibility to, to bring in and mentor Hispanics. So we come again and they see individuals that are non-Hispanics as their physicians, you know, and there is a limitation in terms of that trust. So in that sense, we are feeding the pipeline, you know, to have that sense of identity at the local level. So that's what I had. So we do have pipeline programs, if that's a question. Yes, we do.
Well, I think it's also, in New Mexico, 50% Hispanic Latino. We do not have Hispanic content integrated across UME or GME, and we don't offer uniformly medical Spanish, despite 28% of the state speaking Spanish. But I think a concurrent issue is in many of our faculty evaluations, there's no standardized DI metrics. At this point, we're working on it. And I was wondering if the two of you have been able to map that out.
Yeah, so we do, we're actually in the process of building templates. So I did mention we have a pretty large initiative. We were able to secure funds to build out a health disparities curriculum for the medical students with a required rotation in a federally qualified health center, so that it's required. Now, obviously, you would think most people would want to do it, but it's helpful to make it a required high level. Now, in terms of how we deal with the promotions process for the faculty, we have expanded our criteria for the non-tenured lines. So we have clinician scientists, we have clinician educators, and we have the tenure track faculty. I'm on the tenure track. So it tends to as you go through from tenure to clinician scientist to clinician educator, the role of education and lived experiences becomes more important. And we have templates now in the promotion process and in the evaluation process where we ask people specifically call this out, and we want the A&P committee to take that into account absolutely when they are judging the applicants, the faculty members' promotion and reappointment packages. So it's clearly part of our process. We just finished that task force this last week, and we're building the template now to make sure that we have it in our packet. Now, the university unfortunately doesn't require it, but in the School of Medicine, we are going to require it.
Really great. So again, I think we have reached the end of our time. Really wanted to say thanks to both of our presenters and those of you in the audience for your engagement. And of course, I hope this would also serve many of you who are interested in pursuing this role or a similar role, to keep in mind the fact that, you know, we share a common background, we have lived experiences, we have distance traveled, and we are committed to helping somebody else. Reach out, extend the hand, said Dr. Maldonado. It's been said before, keep the ladder down. We have a mission of service. And I think it's a very important part of the identity of the group that we are sharing here with today. And I hope that these kinds of conversations can be a nice shot in the arm for those of us, and go back renewed next week with a lot more excitement about trying to do this kind of stuff and doing it better and sharing it with more people. So thanks, JP, for putting this amazing program together. And thanks, everyone, for participating. We're now going to a lunch break.